500.
G'day, this is Expand the Phantom podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and you can subscribe to our podcast via YouTube or through your favorite podcast app. Please do not forget to give us a rating so that others can find us. This is episode number 292. Crikey, we're getting very close to 300. As we catch up with all the latest happenings with the Phantom from around the world, this podcast is truly international as we fly around dissecting Phantom-related news from Sweden, Germany, Finland, Italy, and Ukraine. Then review the latest daily and Sunday newspaper stories and review comics from Australia, Sweden, Germany, and the USA. I am Steve, and we welcome Dan and Germ. How are we, fine folks?
Good, mate. Good. It's a beautiful Sunday, the time of recording. It's what better way of having the weekend than with you fine folk and discussing all things Phantom.
Very good. What?
Jim, I can tell you one better way of having a weekend. I didn't get ready for this quite properly. Let's go, Lions! Premiers 2024, baby! Oh, how good was it? Best month of my life. Best weekend ever. Go, Lions! That's how you spend a weekend, winning grand finals. Yeah.
Oh, that is gold.
I was wondering why it was blurry at the start. I started getting a little bit worried when he started taking off his shirt. What's the best way to describe that for the people that are not watching on YouTube and are listening to audio only?
But obviously, Dan's team has won the AFL Grand Final, which is Australia's National Football League, and he's quite the fan. And for those of you, hang on, I'll just see if I can click on his screen so I can see it better. His wall is just adorned with Brisbane memorabilia, Brisbane paraphernalia. He's even got the old Bears stuff up there as well. So long time fan. It's been
Mine's by the team.
Oh, fantastic. He's wearing the hat. He's got the Guernsey on. And what has it been, 20 years since a premiership?
Yeah, 20 years since the last premiership, and I think this flag here was from the last premiership. That was from 30 years ago when they used to be the Bears. Long time fan, as you say, and you got to celebrate it when it happens. So I know we're a Phantom podcast, but I couldn't let the occasion go without talking a little bit about the Brisbane Lions, and surely that's a moment you've got to go to YouTube just to check this out. I'll rearrange in a moment and get more Phantomified while you guys talk us through the introduction. But I just had to celebrate the win.
Fantastic. Well, premierships don't come around every day, and I'm glad you're enjoying it there, Dan, and may there be many more, just not as much as Hawthorns.
Fair enough.
Oh, that's fantastic. Rightio. I did mention that we're getting closer to episode 300, so if anyone's got any ideas for our 300th episode, which is coming up, do you reckon we'll get there by the end of the year, Jeff?
Maybe early next year, I reckon.
Early next year, maybe in time for January, February, you reckon? Oh, it's going to be close. That's only 8 episodes away. We have to throw in a few more episodes to get it to where we want it.
Maybe we should do number 300 to coincide with the Phantom's birthday.
Now there's a thought.
But yeah,
So
you're right.
that'd be February, wouldn't it?
If we were to do that, we'll have to chuck in a few A and Bs, maybe even C and D episodes as well to be able to coincide it. But we'll see what we can do. But that might be a way of doing it.
Just to manipulate the numbers, just to suit us.
Hey, but Crew have done it, so why can't we?
Why can't we? That's exactly right.
But
okay.
If you've got ideas, let us know or something. But I reckon maybe for 300, just spitballing ideas here. Maybe see if we can get a creator on and open it up for some fans to ask some questions or
They're always fun
like
episodes
that.
when we get to do those. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe something like that for our 300th might be a good idea. But if you like the idea, let us know.
We usually start. How's your Phantom month been? But you haven't had any room for Phantom. It's just been all footy there, Dan.
I've renewed my giant size subscription. That's probably about the extent of my Phantom Phantoming. I spent all of my Phantom collecting money on Brisbane Lions merch this month.
Good stuff. What about you, Jeremy? Anything to add to your collection this past month?
There's been a few little things. Got a couple of sketch covers. I've got a free cover that I lay-byed a couple of months ago. Well, actually, no, about a year ago. That's finally should start being arrived soon. And then I'm rearranging. I'm in the middle of rearranging my Phantom room, so it's a real mess at the moment. I've got boxes and everything. So my daughter wanted my bookshelf. So I said if she wanted the bookshelf, she had to help me pack up the Phantom room. So we've been putting everything in boxes, and she's been asking me a million and one questions, and so she's helping me clean up and then we'll redo the Phantom room. So that's probably going to be started now. It'll probably be finished early next year, I would say.
Very good. For myself, I've been able to catch up on all the reading that I haven't been able to do over the last few months. I've caught up in that over this past month, which I'm really happy about because there's some great stories going around. These which we'll talk about in just a moment. There was a nice little good mark badge that came through the mail this past week, which I'm very grateful for as well. So I've added that to my Phantom cap. So starting off with the daily, and we've got daily number 266. We are continuing on with the Avarice has landed. We know the Avarice has landed in the jungle, which we know, and they've got this quadruped that's been that the Phantom's been battling, as you can see if you're following on YouTube. So the Phantom battled the quadruped, and it decided that it was losing that battle, made a run for Hero, and Hero gave it what it's worth, gave it a good old horse kick and sent it flying. It made the old retreat to the main unit, and then we saw what was actually in the unit. I think we're all up to date when this will come out it's all been out in the current day to see what is actually powering this Avarice unit, or really it's three parts in one, I guess, going on. It's like a the vehicle, the quadruped, and the AI being, I guess. But we also find out why the Avarice landed in the jungle in the first place. It was actually turned out to be an inside job. And it's from a character that we met in the first week, I guess. It had something to do with the module landing in where it shouldn't have. And as we can see there up on the screen now, she's trying to alert the authorities, but the authorities, as in the Ian Mollusk's people, have listened to every word she's saying and have come to arrest her. So we wait in bated breath to see what will happen there. So no doubt the Phantom will probably be going cross continents to rescue her as well. Anything else we're going to say about this?
Oh, I think we'll probably get to the big bit, which is on the 20th of October, which is the big reveal.
The 20th of October. What was the big reveal? What was powering it? Yes, the humanoid. This AI being, it just pops out, who sparks a very similar resemblance to the Ian Mollusk real life person, I thought.
Yes, I thought so too.
And,
particularly in some of the later art as well.
Yeah, so in some of the art from the following week, where the humanoid is actually describing, like he does think that he's on the moon, and the glory of Avarice and Mollusk is within this fella's eloquent speech. It's quite a thing to behold, and Manly's art is stunning, absolutely stunning, particularly when
This is the one here in particular. Is that the 22nd of October? I think that is striking in terms of a resemblance to a certain well-known billionaire.
I must admit, I did not see this coming with the whole humanoid type of thing. I remember seeing it for the first time, and it's just like, what on earth? Like, normally when reading the Phantom, you're always a little bit behind in technology, where this is going to the next level of like what today's with the dog robot. I can't remember the name. What did you call it, Steve?
I call it a quadruped.
A quadruped. Yeah. But then, so that's today. But then you've got tomorrow with a humanoid, and which is we've only ever seen in sci-fi movies. It's good to see the Phantom on cutting edge technology for once. So, but I did not see it coming.
No, I didn't. I didn't see a biped robot getting out of the main unit either. I was probably half suspecting an actual human, to be honest, who was controlling the whole thing. But it doesn't surprise. I guess well, hang on, it does surprise because I didn't expect it. But then you realize, okay, well, that actually makes quite good sense that there's just layers of this artificial intelligence being, and to see where this is going and how they communicate with each other. Probably one thing I'm a little surprised in, and I know we're going to delve into the story, but one thing I'm a little bit surprised in is that the home base and Ian Mollusk himself and the Houston, the rocket center, that they're not in touch with Avarice at the moment. It would seem that he seems to have lost complete contact with the home base, and that's why the AI does not realize that it's not on the moon.
Yeah, it's gone offline, really, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Which is the jungle setting. We like our founder not to have too much tech. We like him. We like him offline. But yeah, I think of this Avarice, and I almost said it before a moment ago. I thought, it could be quite blasphemous, but it's like three beings in one. And I'm just thinking, being a Catholic, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Well, we've got the three beings all, but the one Avarice.
It's going to be interesting to see the time of recording. The reveal of the humanoid has not been made to the non-subscribers, so for the average fan. So it's going to be interesting reading and seeing their reactions when they see this. It's definitely got me thinking, the story. So I'm intrigued to see what's next, and then how the Phantom battle this, and then you see on the 26th of October, you see what the Avarice thinks he sees, which is not the jungle setting, but literally on the moon or on Mars or wherever. We're definitely dealing with a deeper level story than the average Phantom story that we all grew up on.
I think that's been Paul's MO. I'll turn into Paul's MO for the last little bit to give us these deeper, intriguing stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Levels upon levels. One aspect of this story that I'm really interested in, and I mean, all of this is a commentary on modern day society, isn't it? And modern day technology, where we're going with AI. The bit that's back in America with the saboteur, who, early days I just thought was maybe a journalist or an interested onlooker. Now it turns out that somehow she's had the ability to actually sabotage the rocket, and that's why it's ended up in the jungle. She's getting arrested now or captured by Ian Mollusk's goons, who are accusing her of treason. And it's in this strip that you've got up, Germ. Is that the 24th of October? You can't arrest me. You're not the government. Stay tuned, he says. So again,
I thought that's a very interesting comment on society at the moment, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. And the timing should not be lost on anyone with where world events are, and particularly, obviously, America, the home of this strip.
Yeah, and look, it's fair to say that the Phantom has been used before for subtle political statements. To think that Lee Falk never did it is ignorance. He did it with The Phantom Goes to War, which is when he was kind of protesting against what the Japanese did in the Second World War. Yeah. He's also done it with the missile crisis, with the Island of the Dogs. He's done it with various dictators, various drug dealers, and Mexican cartels and stuff like that as well. So to think that subtle hints like this of modern day society doesn't find its way into a Phantom comic, and that Lee Falk never did it, is a little bit ignorant.
Yeah, so very much enjoying this one and seeing it unfold. And what I would like, this does seem to be moving at a really good pace, and every week we're progressing quickly through it. And I think that's been something we have been, we've commented in the last couple of podcasts about the last daily, the Sunday, about the pace that it's going. This is certainly a high-paced story.
Absolutely, and they're using the frames well. There's always, I know people can critique about the pacing and being slow, but there's never a word wasted. There's never a frame wasted with Tony and both his artists. So yeah, kudos to them.
And Mike Manley to have this as his return story after was a 6 months off or whatever it was. He's knocking it out of the park. He's come back with a vengeance, hasn't he?
Just gone bang, absolutely bang. And what's coming up in the next couple of weeks? Just bang. Can't wait.
It's also worth making mention that he does celebrate his birthday today, the time of recording as well. So happy birthday, Mike Manley.
Happy birthday, Mike Manley. I like the fact that this great big modern machine that they've spent billions of money, billions of dollars in has been stopped in its tracks literally by just old school jungle.
Yes.
It can't. Yeah, I like that too.
The last Sunday story, I was uncomfortable with it because in my opinion, it messed with Phantom lore too much. Now, this story, I'm still uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with it, but not because the lore is being destroyed. My childhood is being destroyed, like with the chain story, but it's because it's such like the bit that I made mention before, where it's cutting edge. It's tomorrow. We're talking about tomorrow's technology, so it's making me uncomfortable. But I think that's in a good way because I got no idea where it's going. I did not picture that it was going to be a humanoid. I just assumed it was going to be someone controlling it. But unless we're being thrown another red herring, it's I don't mind being uncomfortable in this scenario.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a human. I didn't think it was going to be an actual human controlling. I just thought it was just an AI, just a computer, and it's just got the speech coming out. But having the figure actually gives you a director, something to direct the dialogue to now.
Because it did look like, with Hero kicking the quadruped and a couple of legs falling off it as the Phantom was shooting it and whatever, that the Phantom was on top of the AI, the Avarice, and then all of a sudden we sort of start again with the next Russian doll emerging from from within the last one with the humanoid coming out. And very interested to see how that goes, because one of the strips would suggest the devil thinks that the humanoid is unarmed. Who knows what that means for a humanoid? Astro Boy would have guns pop out of his fingers or his backside. So that might happen.
The Terminator 2 in Terminator, it would grow the arm, would become a gun, and
exactly.
T1000
could go anywhere at this stage.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned Astro Boy. It just reminded me of something. I think during our discussions, I think either on here and also on the socials, is the Phantom in his rights to be shooting this AI? And my argument would be yes, it doesn't have a heart. And we think, well, what about Astro Boy? Because he was this fella. But I remember Astro Boy actually having a heart. I think that's part of the storyline. I know it's not a real human heart, but he had heart. I can't remember. I have to go back and look at it. It's in the recess of my brain somewhere.
But that's the point, is that it might not have a human heart, but a lot of TV shows and movies these days, when we're talking about humanoids and AI and all this type of stuff, they talk about the AI developing where it can make decisions on its own. So if it can make decisions on its own, is that just programming, or is that where it's gone past programming? So I
still don't think it's got a soul.
Yeah, well,
no, it is explored by a lot of fiction. You're absolutely right. One that springs to mind for me is Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams in it, who was an AI robot that that as a viewer you came to know and love, and had a soul and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, still just a robot. So It's an interesting one. It's certainly been explored lots of times. I'm not feeling any sympathy currently for Avarice, I must say.
Or its creator.
No, that's right.
Yep. Okay, so we've started a new Sunday, the Princess of Songhai. Now, Tony DePaul has written a blog post about this. The blog post is titled Phantom Blather, which is pretty much what we do as often as we can. So click on the link and read it for yourselves. Quite a good read. He talks about, it's really about the narrative style that he is. that he's drawing on to tell this story, and he's absolutely drawing influence from Hal Foster's Prince Valiant and the way that that's set out. So if you're familiar with Prince Valiant, you'll get the idea of how this story is being told. But looking at the screens, if you're looking at from those of us who are watching on YouTube, looking at the screens now, you say that's not Prince Valiant. Well, no, we've got to set the scene first, and this is very much a Lee Falk trope. If he's going to, when the fandom reads a story from the Chronicles, he's got to set the scene first, and we see it in the Lee Falk stories, we see it in Phantom and stories, and he needs someone to talk it to. So the first week or two, they're setting the scene with the Phantom and Diana, and they come across this particular gun, an Aquabus, I believe it's pronounced. I'm sure Tony will tell us otherwise. Not an Aquabus, as us Aussies would say.
Mate, us Aussies just call that an old long gun.
An old long gun, that'll do. So the Phantom has been rummaging around the major treasure room and found this old long gun. Discussion with Diana, and that leads us into where this old long gun has come from. And of course, it's come from the second Phantom, and so the Phantom, current Phantom, the 21st Phantom, begins telling the tale of the old long gun, the Aquabus, and the Phantom and his adventures. I think it was in Morocco, if I remember correctly. I do like I think it might be on the next week, where the Phantom's a seafaring man, and even in the ocean of the desert, he's using a sextant to navigate his way across the sands.
The astrolabe, that's a very important distinction that's also Tony discusses in his blog, actually. Yeah, no, apparently he did initially draw it, and in the blog, people can go and read it. He sent it through, and it came back from Jeff Weigel with the Phantom, the second Phantom, using a sextant. It was only late in the very late, it sounds like, in the proofing process, that Tony DePaul realised, oh, hang on, the sextants weren't invented then. He needs to go back to the astrolabe. So there's actually two versions of this strip in the blog, and you can go and see the Phantom holding a sextant, and then the correct version with this astrolabe device.
Oh yes, you can see the artwork there. It is quite different. And you begin to see in these pages that have been coming up now how the narrative style is going to work. So you see these yellow boxes with a lot of text, which is now the Prince Valiant style coming through. And Tony also mentions in his blog about the move away from speech bubbles in this. That way you can actually, the idea is you're getting the second Phantom's voice, or even the reader's voice, depending on the text of the text, the tense of the text, I was trying to say there. And this page here is a very clear example of that. Each line of the strip is a slightly different perspective, if I remember correctly. The first line, of course, is the second Phantom writing it down. The second line is definitely the perspective of the second Phantom. But then, as we go into the third line of the strip, it becomes more third person. It's the Phantom telling the story to Diana, I'd assume.
Phantom makes himself understood. He reckons the invader will move. So yeah, he rides for Goa.
Yeah, so it becomes third person.
It's a really interesting technique, and probably, to be fair, not one that I would have picked up on if I hadn't read Tony's blog. You sort of know instinctively that the voice is shifting around, but often you're just so eager to read the next part of the story that you don't stop to think that through, and it's more an unconscious realization as it sort of seeps in. What it goes to show, I mean, and I would certainly encourage people to go and read the blog post that Tony's put together on it. He certainly thinks very, very deeply about his narrative construction and the way that he puts the story together and the way that he tells the story. How are you finding the technique?
Like you said, it just happened naturally.
Yeah. I've read a lot of Prince Valiant, so for me it's a natural read. But have you guys read comics like this before?
What it reminded me of, and I haven't read a lot of Prince Valiant. I've obviously seen the artwork and that sort of thing of Hal Foster's, but which is extraordinary. And I think Jeff Weigel has certainly taken that vibe into drawing these. What it reminded me of, to be honest, is some of the densely historical pieces that Team Fantomen put out. And there is a lot of reading in this Sunday, more so than usual. And there's probably more words in a single line of the Sunday than there has been in the entire last week of the daily. So again, it's just two different styles. We've almost got two different speeds of stories in the daily and the Sunday, and that's really good, I think, to have that variety. The fact that the Sunday, as we read it in its serialized form once a week, it doesn't become overpowering, and I think that's something that does. And I know I've said before, I can get overwhelmed in Tim Funterman's stories, even though I'm a bit of a history buff, with the amount of history and detail that they're trying to fit into every single page for 28 pages. This is 3 lines, 5-6 panels at a time. It'd be interesting to see how it comes together in a comic book when Frew put it there, and whether that starts to look like it's overly wordy, but that's not what Tony's writing for. That's not his first thought when he's putting a story together. So I think it's working.
Now, it's probably worth making mention, there's been a few discussions about the Phantom, one about the costume of the second Phantom, which we'll talk about in a second, but while we're on this page, which is the 13th of October, which is you've got the Phantom wearing shades. One fan raised the question whether the second Phantom could be wearing shades. And I must admit, I didn't know this myself before, but tinted glasses have been around for a lot longer than the Phantom. So that was that was very educational to be able to read that and learn about that as well. So I did enjoy that. Did you guys know about that little fact?
It wasn't something I was worried about.
I knew that sunglasses and eyeglasses had been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, certainly within the scope of the fandom. It goes back a lot further than I thought, though. Again, Tony wrote about it, not in his blog, I don't think, but in some of the comments that people had posted. I think that was one of the places where the question had been asked in a comment on his blog, and he pointed out that it had gone back nearly 4,500 years, the concept of tinted glass. So,
yeah.
While we're on that page, in the line above, or the strip above, you think he's wearing his mask, or that's just a technique to say that he's got the Phantom? Because he's obviously not wearing his mask when he's got the glasses on.
I think it's just a technique.
His eyes look it's just a technique. And I like it, how that's happened in shadows and stuff before, and the shadows being cast on the wall. There's still the eye sockets there. It's just, I like it.
Look, Janice Auden has done it a few times in some of his stories as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to be really picky about what may or may not have been viable, and without we're talking about 1500s here, aren't we?
Yep.
The story set in. You're right on the cusp of whether purple was actually a color that lots of people could wear, because the purple ink as a synthetic dye wasn't invented for until the 800s, and it was still a very expensive dye color to have. We can speculate perhaps that for the purposes of the fandom that there's some Bengalan flower that you can use that no one else in the world knows about, that fandom can dye his clothes purple. But
he's got a mulberry plantation.
Well, purple would absolutely have stood out as an unusual color for people to be wearing, even more so than it does today. But it was really just the absolute elite and royalty who had access to purple colors at that time in terms of clothing. So if you want to get really picky, that might be one. That might be something that we can challenge Tony on, and I'm sure that he'll have a very good and solid answer and put me back in my box.
There you go.
Well, that's because we've given him we've already flagged the question now, so he's going to be prepared.
Yeah.
The other thing that's worth making mention of is I don't think the good mark ring was around until like the 6th or the 7th Phantom as well.
It will be good to see some action starting to happen with this one, I suppose. At this stage, we've just got the fandom traveling a lot and meeting people and learning languages, and we are learning a lot about the history of this time and the people that were there and all the rest of it, the trade routes and that sort of stuff. But I think we do love the fandom as an action story too.
And I reckon it's going to come, because they're talking about a war that's brewing, and in the blog post, Tony does talk about a cast of thousands. So I think it's coming.
And the other thing that I really liked in his blog post was the commentary around the title, The Princess of Songhai. He made the point that Lee Falk used the princess in his title any number of times, at least 7 or 8 times. Lee Falk had the princess of type stories. I think there was 4 in the 1950s, and then sporadically in the decades that followed. And Tony makes the point that princesses are often entitled and selfish, and it's a slang term for a poorly behaved young lady, and that he thinks that the outcome of this story might be eminently guessable. So I have a feeling we might be going to be introduced to a bit of a princess type character in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, moving on to our comic reviews. So here in Australia, Frew has published 2 comics, Frew 1980 and Frew 1981. So starting off with Frew 1980, which is a 2-story comic. The Mystery of the Mali Ibex is the first story, and the backup, for lack of a better word, story is Operation Domino Chapter 4. Chapter 5 will be in Frew 1981. So starting off on The Mystery of the Mali Ibex, it was written by Bill Pearson and artwork done by Don Newton. First originally published by Charlton in their edition Phantom number 70 back in 1976. It's a story about this golden ibex, I guess the best way of describing it, little idol. There we have the original back in color rather than the black and white that we have in Frew. And it's adventures of people who, a bunch of thieves thieving off one another. It goes from one hand to another to another to another, and where is it, and bringing bad luck, and someone else has gone, and that's a fake. But so it's moving this way and that, and the artwork in color is quite it actually takes the black and white out of the water, doesn't it?
This is a very faded scan as well. If you like what you see with the stories printed in black and white, my recommendation is get the Herms Don Newton collected issue, because they brighten up the colors. That's one that Dan has. Dan, just quickly flip through.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. So when I was reading the 1980, to be honest, I got about 3 pages in before I'm like, this is actually nearly impossible to read. I was really not enjoying it. So I knew that I had the Don Newton collectibles, and actually the Charlton, there's a Charlton collection of Hermes as well. And this one's in both stories. But if you just what Jen was saying there about the brightness of the pages, it really is quite stunning what the Hermes book does in terms of the colors and the artwork, and it is chalk and cheese. It's not even worth. As I said, I got about 3 pages into this. Some of the pictures were so dark and so muddy, and the words were blurry for me, and all the rest of it. And it was at the point where, if I'm going to read this whole story, I'm actually going to want to go and read it in this instead, because I'll enjoy the story a lot more. And I did. It was a real battle, to be absolutely honest, to get through 3 or 4 pages of this. And then when you go back and compare the pair, particularly a great examples on the very last page of the story. So it's on page 24 of 1980. If you look at that middle panel, that is just black. It's just a sea of ink. And I'll grab the same page out of the Hermes press, and just take me a couple.
Page 84.
Page 84. So there you go. And it probably doesn't show up as well on the screen as it does in real life either, but you can at least see the characters. And, if I compare that, and I'm going to fold this book, which is a bit sacrilege, but I'm going to do it. Just compare those two, and it is just night and day, almost quite literally, in terms of what you can see. To the point, and I wondered whether I'd actually say, but I'm going to say this on the podcast. It's to the point where I would almost say to Dudley and the team at Frew, don't bother printing Charlton stories or Don Newton stories, because the page quality and the print quality that we get in Frew almost makes it not worthwhile. If this was the first Phantom comic I ever picked up, I'd go, right, that's gross. That's a disaster. I'm not getting another one. And I hate to say that, but it's just it was almost unreadable.
I wonder what it would have looked like in. I wonder what it would have looked like in color.
Hopefully
if
like that.
Crew had been able to do it in color. Yeah, perhaps, but it just doesn't do it justice. And I fully appreciate that that's the scans that they've got to work with, and I don't know where those original scans have come from, whether they've had them in color. I assume they probably did, and then tried to just translate it across to the black and white, but it just hasn't worked. So what YouTube viewers are seeing on screen as Germ goes through the color, and I'm looking forward to talking about the story because it's actually a pretty good story, but the Frew printing just doesn't know justice, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with you there, Dan. I struggled, but I forgot I had this, and I struggled through it rather than going through the more clearer copy.
So it's worth making mention that this is the second time that it's been printed. 1032, I believe, issue through number 1032, I think, is the first time it was published. And that was also a very heavy, dark printing as well. So I wonder if they're using the same print as that when displayed quite well, is that the Herms color one would be a much better reproduction for Frew to print. And I think it's a real shame because for a lot of readers, they don't have the Charlton books from Herms or even the Charlton comic, the original Charlton comic. So the only time they see Don Newton is in this Frew comic. And I don't think it does his work any justice.
No. Look, as far as the story goes, it is an entertaining read.
It is.
And I'm going to talk about the story, and not the Frew version of it, but the story is an entertaining read. It's fast paced. We've got this ibex, a treasure that could easily be in the major treasure room. It's a scientific wonder, represents a lost tribe that no one else has ever heard of. It's got their language on it, and the fandom chases it across generations. The story deals with the second of 3 iterations of the Phantom chasing it. We hear a little bit at the start of the first one. The bulk of the story is presumably the Phantom's father, like 20th Phantom, but it's not actually named. And then it wraps up in the last couple of pages with the 21st Phantom actually resolving the mystery and retrieving the Ibex. It draws heavily on I think the Casablanca movie. Without being an aficionado of that movie, the characters seem very familiar. Just the artwork. I think Don Newton has used a couple of famous actors, probably from the 1930s and 40s, and really used them well. And it's a good, fast-paced story with lots of action. So yeah.
No, I love the story. This is probably my most favorite of Don Newton's stories. And you make a good point about the 3 versions of the storyline. It's actually good writing, and it kind of backs up the whole mystery of the Phantom, that the Phantom can be the same throughout all these different iterations or versions of the story as well. So it's a pity that this is towards the end of the reign of Charlton. If they had started with this stories back in issue 30 or something like that when Charlton first did it instead of issue 70, we might have even seen more Don Newton and more Phantom published by then.
Yeah, quite possibly.
A lot of the story was lost on me because of the blackness and the printing quality. But like I said, back and forth, it has that 1930s, 40s feel. I'm thinking like Humphrey Bogart, and thinking Maltese Falcon and all that sort of stuff. So if you're a fan of those sort of stories, go out and get yourself this. If you're really a fan of the stories, go and find a color version that Charlton, whether it's a comic or the Hermes Press collected volume.
Yeah.
But what about the actual Frew issue, the artwork, the cover artist? I haven't mentioned that. Antonio Lemos with his style. I know we're going through the story at the moment, but it's got to see Antonio. How many covers does Antonio do a year now? Is it 1 or 2 nowadays?
Yeah, a couple.
It is always good to see the Antonio covers when they come out, because, as you say, they're not as prevalent as they used to be. Antonio's not a young man, and you just never know how many more covers we'll see of his. So it's always a delight when they do come out.
Yeah,
I really enjoy his work, but I think an artist who uses a lot more blacks and a lot more darker colors might have been a better editorial choice for this cover, like an Alex Jamie Johnson, who's actually back in who will be doing a Phantom cover very soon. And like those type of artists who can use a lot of blacks and heaviness, I think would have matched a Don Newton style probably more than what a Antonio Lemis's would have. But I think that
Yeah,
was probably more of an editorial choice.
you're probably right there, but in the through printing, there's enough black use of black in this. They don't need any more of it in the cover.
Oh, do you reckon that's why they chose it? Is because they ran out of their allocation of black ink?
They'd run out of black ink.
Okay, so Coast of Change. Well, we've gone from old style or more hand-drawn work with Antonio's cover to the more digital type artwork that Grange is renowned for. And if we're talking about the cover and bring a dynamic, an extra dynamic to it, check out the banner. There, oh, you can see it up on screen now. The Phantom's got all these gunshots going whizzing past him, and one's actually hit his title and smashed the T a bit. So hopefully that and get the panel beaters out there, give that a bit of repair job, ready for the next issue, because we can't have a broken T on our letterhead.
I don't think it's the best work that Grange has ever done, but it's by far my favorite of his covers. Like, I really like the pirate one that he did a couple of years ago. That's probably my favorite of Grange, as it's the best overall style and drawing that he's done. But I like this. It's big, it's impactful, it's action, it's got those guns, it's got the interaction with the title. Dudley makes mention in the message from the publisher about some of the older free comics where you've got the big phantom heads and stuff like that. It kind of does give that feel.
I know it's been a while since Frew have done any of their A2 posters, but I think this would make an outstanding A2 poster. You could look at this from across the room, and it would really still have that vibrancy and dynamism. Be really dynamic for just a big stationary head on the front cover. It's a really dynamic piece.
Yep.
So this is we're getting towards the voting time of year there, Jeremy. You reckon this one's going to feature highly?
It will feature highly, I think. I'll go out on a limb, and I would say that it will probably be in the top 5, top 10 easily.
Oh, okay. So we look forward to that when it comes out at the end of this year, start next year.
Yeah.
Right. So the actual story is the Coast of Chains. Was written by Daniel Carlson with art by Anthony Spey, who's famous, of course, at the moment working on the Phantom video game, and was first published by Egmont in 2022. Now, the Coast of Chains refers to, well, I'm assuming it's going to refer to the slave trade. A number of native villages are being raided and being taken away. Muka, the slave market of Muka, gets a mention in there somewhere. But of course, the authorities put their head in the sand. They don't think there's anything going on. It's just a bit of nuisance, bit of arguments between the tribes. They're just warring amongst themselves. There's nothing to see here. The Jungle Patrol think that there's something more going on here and go to investigate. And unfortunately, we don't hear anything back from them. So the Phantom springs into action and gets to the bottom of what's going on. And we'll leave it there without trying to give away too much of the plot or how it's resolved.
So Daniel Carson's created a couple of stories. From memory, he was quite close with Diane Dower, who's recently passed away and has also celebrated her birthday, well, would have celebrated her birthday recently as well. So I don't mind this story. Like the artwork, especially of the Phantom, I don't quite think Anthony Spey's found his niche when he was drawing this yet. I think especially doing the Phantom game, I think I prefer his Phantom game, Phantom version better than what I've seen in the first couple of his stories. I think his Phantom game, Phantom, is a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more life. Aesthetically looks more like the Phantom I grew up with, maybe a little bit less muscle mass.
Jim, I agree. That's the note I had written down as well. That because if this is published in 2022, odds are that it was drawn in 2021. That's 2-3 years before Anthony's working on the Phantom game. And I completely agree. I think he's found a much better groove with his Phantom now. I'm looking forward to seeing, Phantom stories that he draws after 23, 24 to see how that has come across.
He still has his style, though. You can still tell it's a Spey story, even if you only know him from the video game.
Yeah. Now, one point I probably only picked up this on the second time I read it is that you don't really see many Phantom stories dealing with the Phantom in a colonial environment, if that kind of makes sense. So in here, we've got the English being in charge, and you've got the how would you put it, the politics behind that, like the Jungle Patrol saying, hey, look, we can help you. Oh, no, you're just a militia. Get out of here. We don't need your help. And the British basically supposedly stopped slavery, but in this story, they were behind the slaves still happening. And it's interesting having the Phantom having this story dealing with a colonial background or theme to the story. So, I quite enjoyed the story. There was one aspect that kind of annoyed me, which we'll get on towards the end of the story. But overall, I didn't mind this story at all because I thought it kind of added something.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because, I mean, we kind of inherently know, and perhaps as Australians and probably Indian readers do as well, pick up, we know about England's colonial past. We're both former current colony. Our king is currently in the country.
Is he?
Yes, have you not heard?
No, I hadn't heard either. So we're very good royalists.
No, it's very nice that our head of state is able to come and visit the country. So we're a former colony. So we probably, when I read Phantom comics and that Jungle Patrol type stories, you know that it's a colonial power. But you're right, this is one that explicitly talks about it, which we don't often see, and it is interesting to see it brought to the fore. And as you say, the politics behind it, and the way that it can be corrupted, as it was both in India under the Raj and in Australia early days as well.
I'm just looking forward to the Phantom being in the Commonwealth Games now. Always thought he could make it to the Olympics, but if Bengala's part of Commonwealth, then they've got their independence. They might be in the Commonwealth Games now.
This is the page, the one part of the page 20, that annoyed me, but I'm glad he didn't get bumped on the head. But still, tripping over a rock is such a rookie mistake. I must admit, I'm not sure what's worse, tripping over a rock or getting bumped on the head.
Well, the bad guy gets bumped on the head on the next page.
Tripping over a rock. The Phantom's got his jungle skills. He shouldn't be able to do it. It's interesting
that kind of irritated me. That's that one thing about the whole story that irritated me was that one panel on page 20. It would have just been better if he maybe just bested the Phantom in a sword fight. I would have preferred that than tripping over a rock.
Oh. I just saw this video a day or two ago, and it was a couple of people, a couple of comic geeks, nitpicking the Superman movie, from the late 70s, whatever it was. And there was a couple of points in particular. One was when Clark Kent's Earth Dad, I think he falls down, has a heart attack. And it takes him a good little while before he notices, before Superman notices, and you think he's Superman. He's got supersonic hearing. Wouldn't he have heard him drop? And there was another time, I think, when Lois Lane is hanging from the helicopter or something from above him from the Daily Planet, and he doesn't realize until he sees everyone else looking up. So it's not just something in the Phantom, with riders and stuff. It also happens with the big guns as well.
That's certainly why Superman's such a difficult hero to write or to follow, I think. And that's part of why, that's the sort of thing why I love the Phantom. I think you guys probably do, and a lot of the people who are listening, because he's a human and he makes errors. I forgive tripping on the rock. Yes, he's supposed to be as trained as a jungle cat and all the rest of it, but he's in the middle of a fight and it's an area strewn with rubble. I can understand why he might trip on a rock. He's a human after all. He's not supersonic or super strong and all the rest of it. He's just well trained. So I forgive that one.
I did enjoy the jumping off the bridge and off the jetty and just catching a hold of the rail of the boat. I thought that was very clever.
Pretty cool.
I did enjoy that.
And just
look over. Yeah.
Can you go back to, because that was the page I was going to ask you to hold up for us. But this is a really good example of something that Anthony Spey does really, really well. And that's that shifting camera, whether it's a long range or a close up, if it's over someone's shoulder, it's the perspective that from a bird's eye, and you see it all over the shop in these pages that you've got it on page 22 and 23. And it just is really clever camera work, if you like, for the artist to take us as the viewer around the scene and see it from all of the coolest angles.
All right, all in all, positive story. We like that one. Okay, so the backup story for these last two issues, and for the last number of issues, has been Operation Domino, which written by Australian Duncan Munro. The artist is now Fabio Alves, and of course Glenn Ford's going to be the editor here. So Operation Domino sees the Phantom in World War II, and getting a little bit mixed up with what's going on. When I'm reading this, I've got it happening before the Phantom goes to war, before that story in that Lee Falk did. So I see this as a bit of a lead up to that, and the Phantom being involved, helping with a bit of espionage, a little bit of off the books work, as it were, by this what they called Domino team. I can't quite remember what their name is.
The SOE.
SOE, that's right. Special operations or something like that. Now in chapter 4. Silent Running, they're somewhere in the desert, in the mountains of Yemen. The Phantom has just recently rescued a child, and it looks like we're in danger here because the people have come across him to have a go at him, and they're worried about losing their heads. But it turns out that the child that he has rescued actually belongs, or is the daughter of the leader of this tribe here, and with them we move forward, and they're able to get home. As we go across, we get the Phantom up in a fighter jet with a Captain Ken Stacy. Now, something that I really liked with Duncan's stories are these little cameos here. And for those of you who are unaware of Captain Ken Stacy, well, Ken Stacy is an artist. I don't know if you got it on me there, Germ. But anyone who remembers the old Phantom Gallery cards by Intrepid back in the mid-90s, Ken did the Phantom climbing into the plane, into the jet, and he was out in Australia recently, just this year, and he's done an updated version of that artwork. So Ken gets a cameo into, and of course Ken's the pilot of the plane.
I think from memory, was it his father, maybe his grandfather, actually flew aeroplanes in the war as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of connection there. And so they're on the bombing raid with the U-boats, because now that they've found where they're hiding, they've gone after them. But not all things go to plan, and they get shot down. But they get rescued, for lack of a better word, by a fishing boat. That's not all it turns out to be. It's not just a normal everyday fishing boat. And are they rescued or captured? And what do they find on this boat? Well, what they find on the boat, they bring they're able to get back home in episode 5, which is called The Irregulars, where they get back, when I say home, it's Great Britain, off to England, and they're able to take what they've found in the fishing boat and bring it to none other than Winston Churchill. Now, Winston Churchill, he surrounds himself with an absolute crack team of people, such as Lord Mountbatten, who just happens to be the cousin to the king. And also we have Commander Fleming, who would later go on and write the James Bond, as well as Chi Chi Bang Bang novels. And there's one Roald Dahl as well, who comes in to help with everything that's going on. So there's quite a few famous names appearing in this story. But then they reckon that this Phantom, this Mr. Walker fella, might be able to do some work for the SOE, for the Special Operations Executive, and so thought we'll send him off to the training course. We've seen how it was like in the field, but maybe he needs a little bit more. So they go to a bit of hand. So they take him to the champion hand-to-hand combat person, Mr. Sergeant. What was his name again? Sergeant Mason, was it? And
Yeah.
his name's probably Paul as well. I'm going to assume there. And
I really like the way he's introduced. Sergeant Mason will take you through it. Paul, give him the best you've got. So it's
yeah, there it is. The best hand-to-hand combat instructor, Paul. You think you improve his skills? My boys are pretty tough, and as it turns out, the Phantom just whoops everybody. And we get Roald Dahl back there on the park bench, and Phantom's a bit of a smart aleck to him, and Roald's going to punch him in the nose, but we're left on a cliffhanger. The Phantom may have discovered the person who's hiding in the bushes, who he's come to find, but there's a knife in the dark. There's a crow or a raven flying off that's been startled. What's going to happen next? We have to watch out for the next installment of this adventure, codename Hatchet. I've been reading a lot of James Bond recently, and I love this spy thriller stuff.
It's the artwork is really growing on me as well. I think at first it was a little bit jarring, mainly because I'd never read any comics with this type of artwork or this art style. I think the only similar style of art I've seen like this before would be from the KGB noir from Moonstone, probably about 20 years ago or 15 years ago. But I was talking to someone and they made mention Garth Ennis did some artwork or did a run on the Punisher Max, and it's got a very similar style as this. So and that was very, very popular. It's kind of got a bit of a cult status as well. But yeah, the art, I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of heaviness, a lot of darkness. This panel here on page 29 is really cool.
Oh, that's brilliant. Just emerging from the darkness.
Yeah, no, so I'm really enjoying what Fabio is bringing to this story, and I think that the style does actually suit it as well.
Yeah, it's growing on me. And actually, that page you were talking about, the lead up to that scene, the Phantom's got his honed jungle skills. He knows that he's being followed and that he's being followed since he arrived at the building. They haven't caught him by surprise at all. A lot of things that I've noticed with this type of artwork is like there's almost like a scan or a photocopy of a real life place. Like there's a photo and it's been the characters have been drawn onto it. That was very noticeable in an earlier edition. I think the Phantom and his fellow he's hanging out with were in the water, and it just looked like they'd been drawn over the and that was jarring for me. I wasn't keen on that, but this latest one, episode 5, I've found has worked a lot better. It's a lot less jarring, and it was probably even more jarring because the first one was done by Picciotto, Daniel Picciotto,
Yes.
whose artwork is phenomenal. It's fantastic. But now we've moved to this. What do you reckon, Dan? We both have our 2 cents in about the artwork. What have you thought?
Yeah, much the same. Probably was a bit jarring in the first instance, particularly because the story started with one artist, and even halfway through chapter 2, I think it was moved to the other artist. I'm really warming to it, to be honest. Similar thing, like it's the almost photorealism of vehicles and places and famous faces in particular. Winston Churchill looks a lot like Winston Churchill. He's a lot like he's done a very good job of and whether it is actual photocopies and then going over those and incorporating those into the work, or photostats, or whatever the technique that Fabio uses in a digital way to make sure that the buildings, the vehicles, and the famous faces are as almost photorealistic, and then blending that around his own more. I used the word muddy when I talked about the Frew before, the Charlton before. It's almost a dusty type feel to these ones, and I really like it. It's really growing on me. And any of the famous faces, your Roald Dahls, your Ian Flemings, your Lord Mountbattens, Winston Churchills, who are real characters who did those real things in the real war. He's really nailing the likenesses of those, which you need to, I think, if you're going to incorporate a Winston Churchill. That's a really famous face that lots of people will recognise. It's got to be pretty bloody close, and he's done a great job of it. And what I'm finding with the story writing, it reminds me a lot of the old Commando comics, actually, and whether that's just because it's World War II, but the desert scenes, you can almost hear the Gott in Himmel and Achtung and that sort of thing from those old Commando comics coming through. I assume Duncan's probably read 1,000 of them, like most men in our generation in Australia, certainly.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading them all in one hit. And I wish I'd read parts 1 to 5 this morning, but yeah, I think they're flowing very, very well. Well done, Duncan. Thank you very much for your work. So we are currently looking for reviewers who can review comics from Finland, France, Italy, and some other locations that publish The Phantom. If you'd like to join the team with regular reviews, please contact us, our socials. Now let us switch to Scott from the USA and Ivan from Norway and Christian from Germany as they review comics that have been released in their countries. Take it away, fellas.
Today we're going to be talking about Defenders of the Earth, Issue 2 from Mad Cave Studios. Let's dive in. As you can see by this cover, we have a beautiful shot of the Phantom. This is a more Phantom-centric story, this issue. And we have him nicely in this spotlight glow here in the shadows of an alley. We see the stage door, the Mandrake the Magician poster. Really sets the mood for what we're going to see and what's going to go on. This issue was written by Dan DiDio with art by Jim Calafiore and colors by Wancho. Has a beautiful opener, very colorful. A lot going on here, jumps right into the action. If you read Defenders of the Earth issue 1, this picks up kind of off the threads we saw at the end of that issue. So we have Lothar and LJ. They're back in the Five Nations now. They're on their way to answer a distress call when they encounter Sing pirates. And as Phantom fans know, Sing pirates are tied to the Phantom. And that's where they encounter a new one. This isn't the one we are familiar with, but he is wearing the classic Phantom costume we all know and love. See, you have the striped undergarments here. And this Phantom is someone from Kit Walker's past. I won't say who, but if you read the first issue or watched our review, that was something that was teased in that issue. And so there's a little bit of a verbal threat here. The colors and the action, real intense, nice setup. We get a shot of the ring. We get a lot of emotions here. Calafiore is really good at showing anger. And that's one of his strengths. And with the colors from Wancho, works beautifully. Elsewhere, we have Mandrake the Magician doing a show that doesn't really go well. And so he uses magic to turn his audience into babies. Color really makes this stand out. Yet again, the Phantom, the one we know and love, is watching. And after the show, they get to talking about what's going on. And this is really our vehicle to help further the exposition we saw last issue. We know that Crotan, son of Ming the Merciless, the enemy of the Defenders and Flash Gordon specifically, has been helping humanity after Ming's, supposed death. And he needs support and help from them to build his base. And in turn, he's going to apparently lift humanity up, whatever that means. And so Mandrake and the Phantom don't believe it. They're expressing doubt. And then they go out into an alley and bam, Phantom's attacked. And he gets stabbed. Elsewhere, we go to the Arctic where we see Crotan and Flash Gordon with his son, Rick Gordon. And while they're listening to him and going along with his plan, Rick Gordon is really the hero here who expresses doubt over everything. And so we get this, this segmenting of the team. That's really what this issue does the best, is it really splits everybody apart and shows them where they're at. But it's also a vehicle to bring back Zuffy, who, in the cartoon, he looked a little more cartoonish and kiddish. And here, you could see the line work from Calafiore. Kind of gives him more of a form and maybe even an aged up form. Hard to say, but it just definitely looks like an older creature, and maybe that was the intention. And so it's nice to see Zuffy's return. If you've been a fan of the cartoon and liked him, or you bought that Phantom figure from NECA that came with them, here he is back in full form, back in the Five Nations. They part their ways with this new Phantom and head to where they were originally going to go, this village that was had a distress call, or distress beacon that was put out. And so this is where they encounter total destruction. Something's going on in the Five Nations, we're not sure yet. But it's also where we see Jeddah, who has been missing since last issue. And so This issue really kind of gathers around the theme at this point. It's about birthright and identity. And so Jetta is talking about how, her father went along with the counsels of the Phantom and never questioned it, and she felt denied. And here, she's going along with someone who definitely questioned the counsel of the Phantoms and allowed her to claim her birthright for herself. So interesting dynamic. And really, like I said, birthright is kind of the theme here. You see Rick Gordon, kind of separating from his dad and Crotan with what's going on. We've had LJ and Lothar separated from their own country and coming back and seeing, it in flames. And then we go back to Kit Walker and his battle in this alley after talking with Mandrake the Magician. And, he lives after getting stabbed. And he tells the thug that, this person should have made sure that the person they were attacking, i.e. the Phantom, wasn't already dead. And that's when we get the weird tease at the end of this issue, that the Phantom apparently has been dead for 5 years, or so he says, and he is quite literally the ghost who walks. So this is definitely a departure from a lot of the comics and stories that have appeared over the years, but it's also very enticing. And so this is only issue 2. We have plenty more issues to go, and we can see where this goes. But obviously, we have a lot more in play beyond just the introductory plots that were introduced last issue. So a lot to look forward to, a lot to see here. Beautiful issue overall. Art is pretty good. The only complaints I had were there were a couple sequences where Mandrake the Magician was walking, and it looked like the proportions were a little off. But I do like the facial features. They're kind of a mix between realistic and a little cartoony to kind of lean into both the cartoon and also modern comic storytelling.
Welcome, Phantom fans. This time I will take a look at the new Fantomen book from Sweden. It's the comic book this time, so it will be a very short look. They only have some 45, 40, 50, 48, 52 pages with covers included. So it's not as the latest hardcover book I presented for you. And I have to apologize for my surroundings. I am decorating my office, so there will be a bit mess from time to time. Sorry for that. This is number 20 of 2024, and the Fantomen book has the nice cover with Mr. Walker, drawn and painted by Henrik Sahlström. And do nice covers. The story is by Peter Anderson and Alex Savyuk as an artist. It's The Mördaren och Vålnaden del 1. The Murder and the Ghost part 1, I think it will say in English. It's actually the first story by Peter Anderson, written directly for Team Fantomen. And as usual, even if this is adventure story, hardcore crime with the fighting, a lot of fighting, guns, he couldn't help himself but put in some humor in it. That's his brand, I think. Back to the second cover page. You have adverts from Andreas, the editor, a lead, and some ads about the new this autumn's books. These two have already been presented, and here you have a list of persons or so on, telephone numbers. So I don't think there is much more to say about the Phantom story. It's, as I say, part 1, and as an opening I think it went well. I'm a bit curious about the rest, so we'll have to wait a few weeks. And as usual in Fantomen comics there are also add-on stories. This is Forgifterskan part 2. I don't think that's have much interest for Phantom fans, but anyway. And in the back third cover you have the ad for the next story, and also what additional story. And on the back you have also the advertising about this new books. So all in all, not a big comic book, but it's good enough, I think. It's time for a new Fantomen review, and this time it's issue 21. And as last time, the cover is done by Henrik Salström, and it's portraying from the story by Pidden Savjuk, and the murder and Walnaden. The inside cover is usual editorial by Andreas, and some ad. Fantomen is back in Denmark after several years, and the editorial information. And then we have the continue of the stories from last time. And I have to say, after reading both parts now, I think the story is fantastic. It's good. It's funny. It's just enough excitement and adventures to be readable. Peter is known for a few rather a lot humor, and in this panel he say the desk clerk tells him that dogs are not allowed, and he answer, usually I won't tell you that this is not a dog but a wolf, but this time I don't feel like it, and he just continued. So perhaps not as funny as when I say it, but I find it really amusing. And the story continues with some bang bang and a bit fighting and even a few gunshots. And in the end there is a solution that everyone can live with, even the Phantom, but I think perhaps the solution was a bit drastic. But you have to wait and read that for yourself. The addition story this time is Torgel's childhood. It's a Belgian album series, very good. I don't think it's published in English in Great Britain, and it's recommended if you ever find a copy. And we have the next issue section, and that will be a double issue at 100 page. It's a story by Darrell to honor him. A very popular story. A Manrek is back, and we got the last part of Torgel's childhood. And we have a few ads for Swedish albums. Asterix, Idefix. And of course, the ad for this year's excitement, Phantom Books.
My name is Chris. Today we have a look at the Wick comic number 8. It's called The Doppelgänger and the Race. And we start with The Doppelgänger. It's a comic from Bastei. In this old magazine it has the number 218, which I can show you here. It is the old magazine from Bastei, like I said. Just a quick look. And we start with the Wick comic. Like always, the paper and the printing quality is insane good. The story I like much. And like you see, it's from 1982. And the panel 1 of page 13 was cut in the original magazine, but Wick does it uncut. And the next, Das Rennen, the race, was planned for the number 240 in 1983, but like we all know, it never happened. Then some advertising from the ECR Verlag. And we have a look at the race. Again, nice printings, awesome job from Peter Menningen and from Mr. Tavalla. I like the paintings. I grew up with these paintings, and like I said, it's awesome to see this quality. And then we have a look at number 9 from Wick Comics. It's called Der Bergkrieger und die Schatzkammer des wandelnden Geistes. And some information about the art from Mr. Tavalla, how you paint better and how he did his job, and then we're done. 4 magazines left. Today we have a look at Zauberstern comic number 14. 100 pages for €9.99. This time it's not glued anymore, it's stapled again, like the previous magazines. We have 4 comics. This time The Phantom of Shangri-La and The Pharaoh Phantom, The Web of Fear and Gold. It's a retro magazine because some of the paintings are not crisp, like if you see this one, it's not very sharp, and I think they got a not so good quality for the printing in Germany. And The Phantom of Shangri-La is from 1969 from Dick Wood and Jim Aparo. And we have this magazine in Bastei number 76, Der braune Riese vom Bangala, which I show you some pages. And it's in 94 again, Ausbruch aus dem Todestal, in the old Bastei magazines. And it's an awesome story. I like it very much. We have 2 parts in this magazine printing, and then we have the Pharaoh des Todes, the Pharaoh Phantom from 69, also from Dick Wood and Jim Aparo. And this magazine was also released from Bastei 96, Der Tempel des Grauens. and it's also a nostalgic version in printing, but I like it very much, and also in 2 parts, and overall it's good paint, good printing, and the Web of Fear, there you see it again. It's not crisp like we all know it in these days. Netz der Angst, it's called in German. Also with the spider. It's also released in Germany, Bastei number 110, das Haus der 7 Rätsel, which I show you. And we are in the right place. Some things are cut out or cut in, but also in 2 parts again. Don't know why, but it's okay to read. And then we have the Gold Fever, like it's said here. It's Gold from Mark Verheiden and Luke MacDonald from 1989 DC Comics, which again is a very dark comic. I like the other 3 more. I don't like this dark side not very much, but the quality of the printing is awesome, and it's my things that I don't like these dark comics. The new comic magazine number 15 comes out in October 22. Then you have some 1 page from Comic Salon Erlangen in the 2000s, and this year some advertising in the back cover, and on front it's called that artist is Don Newton, but that's a mistake. It's Frank Bolle, I think. And yeah, that's the review. Thanks for watching and have a good time.
Thank you, fellas. Rightio, moving on to the news. Now, we've got a couple of points here for this edition of the podcast. Our first cab off the rank, we have German publisher Zach edition release Phantom series featuring stories by Bernd Friends. Okay, so this isn't an actual Phantom comic, Gem. It's another thing. Another.
It's another German publisher.
Yeah. How many? What are we up to now with Germany?
I think it's 5. So we've got Colt did the Mitten stories. Zach are doing the Burnt Friends stories. You got Zubistan, which are actually going to be releasing new issues in 2025. Then you've got Wick, which are currently up to 8 out of 12, I believe. ECR is the other one they're the ones that do the AI covers. So and they do the reproduction of the daily and Sunday newspaper stories starting from the Cybera.
Quite like what's what I'm looking for here? Glutton? No.
Oh, look, it's really good to see, actually.
I'm sure there's a word in German.
The German word is Wheeler Comics.
Wheeler Comics. What does that mean? Lots of comics. Like
comics.
Yeah, so in the 90s, you had a 4-part series in 96 and 97, but before then, you were looking at the 80s. That's something.
Yeah, right. This Zach edition, is it going to be in color, soft cover, and 56 pages, and it's worth €16, and it'll be published in November, so not far away. Any word on how many they're going to be printing, Jam, or is it just they're starting up, or is it going to be a limited run?
Okay, so at the moment, it's 2. So 2 albums have been released. Featuring, so that'll be 4 stories. But I know that Burn Franz is actually working on some other stories as well. So I would assume once other stories have been created, they might release some more from him as well.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, so staying over in Europe, we've got Italy. We've got Edorale Cosmo, which is an Italian book out now. But this is only going to be 1 issue, Jim?
Yeah, they originally announced it as a mini series, highlighting all the different Italian creators. So you've got Angelo Todera, Massimo Gambera, Felmain, Ferry, and so they were going to be doing some of the Fratelli Sparta stories, but then also some of the Fru stories as well, and then Team Phantom stories.
Oh,
And look,
very good.
there's been so it's a bit of a pity that there's only going to be one book because you got Sal Veluto, who's done a whole heap of Team Phantom stories. So they could have really created 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 issues
A
highlighting
year's worth, really.
these different Italian creators. So it is a little bit of a pity, but look, it's still good that they're releasing the comic. But yeah, it would have been nice to be able to see some of these other stories.
Maybe they're just dipping their toe in the water and see
Mm.
how when it comes out.
Yeah, and look,
Well,
if it sells well, who knows? Maybe they will do more.
rightio. Now, as this was announced back in May 2024, we're going over to Norway, I think now. The 2024 Phantomet album will be out on the 8th of November. The cover art is by Sam Klein, who has beautifully captured the elements of the recent Wreck and Ruin storyline in the album cover. Album is going to feature the Wreck and Ruin from the newspaper's Tony DePaul's story there. Oh, and we've even got Kit Walker Jr. there with a machine gun on the front cover and Old Moz telling the story.
I like how he's done the cover of this. I really do think he's done a good job. Like you got the smoke from the campfire kind of separating the different elements, and you've got the skull, which kind of gives it a bit of a evil foreboding kind of feel to it as well. And it's all going to be in color. If you look on our article, and we'll include this on our for the YouTube viewers as well, you can actually see an example of some of the artwork that's been colored by Ivan Pedersen for the other two stories created by Lee Falk, Wilson McCoy, and Cy Barry. I reckon this will be an all right album. The last couple of years they've done landscape kind of ones, and this is going to be more of a portrait one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay,
And we'll
so
have a review of it coming up when it comes out.
So the stories are To Rack and Ruin at Gravelines, The Chronicle of Old Man Moz, Death in the Himalayas, Phantom's End, which is all the Rack and Ruin saga there. Then the two Lee Falk stories are The Planet God of the Masao and Dinosaur. The first one being illustrated by Wilson McCoy and Dinosaur being done by Cy Barry. Okay, anything you'd like to say about those, Dan? You're just glad that Norway's getting some Phantom?
Oh, it's an interesting mix of stories to go together. Obviously, the common theme is that they're newspaper stories, but yeah, it's a curious editorial choice to blend all of those ones in the same album.
One of the reasons for that is because those two Lee Falk stories have actually never been published in Norway in comic book format.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah. Okay, so moving away from comics now, and we've got some new merch. Mustanamio shop is now open. There's stickers, clothing, key rings, is it coffee mugs or coffee? And more. Now these are the guys. Sorry, coffee. So these are guys that have done that did the beer. Is it the same group?
Yeah. So Archie Design is kind of like they've kind of got the license and they deal with it all, and then so there's the two beer companies that have created Phantom Beer, and then so now they've got Phantom Coffee, and they're doing all other stuff as well. So yeah,
Those two.
so you can actually buy coffee beans that are labeled with the Phantom on it.
Right. Geez, there's so much here. But can we get it here in Australia, or you have to be in Finland?
Okay, so at the time of recording, you have to be in Finland to be able to purchase it. However, we have been in contact with the guys Archie Design, and they are looking at ways to be able to make it available for non-Finland fans. I would say in the near future, you will be able to buy some of this stuff and get it shipped to yourself.
Yes,
In
I
the
hope so.
meantime, if you cannot wait, our suggestion would be to befriend some Finns.
Just
We
checking out
are
the Tag Republic's website right now. There is some quality stuff on here.
There's some really nice stuff. We're in the middle of I'm in the middle of trying to get some stuff, and if I do get some stuff, there will probably be some for Patreon prizes. So if you're a Patreon, we will probably have some in the near future for our next prize, which will probably be the summer prize, or maybe the autumn one going on next year, where we will be able to have some giveaways for our Patreon prizes. So that's some stuff that we're working on. So I would assume there would be, I know there will probably be some on sellers who will probably be working out ways of getting it and then selling it through eBay and stuff, which will probably cost you a bit more, but it means you can possibly get it quicker than other people. Or
Just
you
been
can
going,
just be patient.
just going through the products there. There's one, when I was looking at our website, there was one that I thought they were soaps that they had that sort. They were round and kind of looked like had that soap feel that you rip the paper off and the soap's underneath. But going through the website, they're actually lids for drink cans, which should be a must-have for anyone who's you think be a must-have for anyone in Australia, but we don't have the beer open long enough to worry about the insects. But it's to stop your insects from into your ice cold can of drink, whether it's a Coke or a bit more amber coloured. It also protects against spills, but no red-blooded Australians going to spill their drink.
Oh, I thought it probably also protect you from getting your drink it spiked as well. So
yes, which is very handy. See, the fan's protecting you everywhere.
yes,
But it comes in a
yes.
2-pack of the skull mark and the good mark, and I thought, if I can get that, I think that's just a handy little thing that I'll never have thought would be a Phantom product.
Yeah, look, there's some unique, like there's that scarf, like there's a scarf, and then there's the drink caps, which are just kind of unique things. Like never thought about that, but there's some very typical classic, like the stickers, the key rings, and the shirts, and
I need a lanyard. Yeah.
yeah,
And the shirts are like a simple, little simple Phantom head there on the side there. Yeah.
If they can become available for Australians to buy, I think they're going to fly off the shelf.
Yeah,
the
maybe shipping doesn't kill you on it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe Fru or Renee needs to look at getting a whole pile for Phantom's Vault or something, because
I do think particularly the items that don't have any words on them, and then there's plenty of those, because there will be, and I'm open enough. I'm one of the people who'd much prefer to see the word the Phantom rather than Mustanamu. Again, can't
The black mask.
yeah, the black mask. So the T-shirt that's got that label on it and that sort of thing, probably not for me. But the keyrings, the lanyards, so many of the shirts, the stickers, they're all just a really good Phantom image. So it's a huge variety of things. Jerm, have you worked out the total cost of one of each?
okay, yes, I have actually.
Have you?
No, just purely for argument's sake. So hang on, I'm just going to. So this is including shipping. So if you were like looking at buying one of each, and that's like, so with the same design for the shirts, you can get like a shirt, a jumper, and one of them you can even get a hoodie. So that's 3. So if you were getting one of each, not one of each color, because with the shirts you can get 11 different colors and 6 different sizes, but just like one shirt of that design, one jumper of that design, you're looking at about 600 Australian to get everything shipped to you.
Yeah, right.
Given that the key rings are €6 and stickers are €3, sort of thing, gives you an indication as to how many different products there are. There's a lot there.
So there's 2 different canvas bags. There's a scarf. There's how many stickers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different stickers. 3 different designs for shirts, and 2 of those you can get in a shirt and a jumper, and one of them you can get as a hoodie as well. There's 3 different labels for coffee. And then there's 3 different key rings and lanyard, and then of course there's the silicone lids for your drinks, which Stephen talked about as well.
Yeah, and I think having it in the different language actually is a bit of a bit trendy, I would have thought.
A bit of a novelty.
Very good. And yeah, so hopefully we can get those here in Australia. The second product that we've got down here is Swedish subscription towel. Now,
So the way the Swedish guys do that, so for Australian viewers, we get our file cards, right? So for the Swedish guys, if you get it, you can either get like a book or you can get a towel. So they've got a new design of a towel. Before it was a red and black striped Phantom End towel, and this one's like a big Phantom head on it. And there's a couple of
is this like a tea towel or a beach towel, Jim?
No, beach towel.
Yep.
It's a good sized beach towel. Yeah. So from what I understand though, is some people have been saying that you can only get it, so you can get your subscription posted to you, say to Australia or India or the US, but they might not ship the towel to you. But in the past, they have shipped that to me as well. So at the moment, I'm getting some clarification on that. But they've also got a deal where you can get up to 51% off at the moment for your subscription, which is a pretty handy subscription discount.
Yep, and that's if you're getting 4 issues of the Phantom. And you can get a 12-issue subscription and you'll be saving 44%. So yeah. So
it would be kind of nice if Frew offered that, every so often, like, as a deal, like, hey, especially for like, in December or something coming up for Christmas, it could be, renew or extend your subscription now, or, get your subscription now and save 20% or whatever. And it will be interesting to see if there would be more people that would go, oh, crikey, it's Christmas, so we can get that for our, for the Christmas present or
it depends what that means though, because the current Frew subscription is, I think, 30% off the cover price if you were to buy every book all for the year at the newsagents. So does that 44, 51%, whatever, is that off the cover price or is that off the normal subscription price?
That's off the normal subscription price.
Yeah, right.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. I thought it would be at the cover price.
That would be no, as long as they can do that and still make money and stay in business.
You know what else they do if you buy your subscription through Phantom End? Is you also get access to them via digital as well, and you get all the back catalogue digitally as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. All right, and the last product we've got here is the second set of Phantom playset by Elastowit. So these are like the little plastic army men they released, was it last year or the year before? I can't quite remember.
Yep.
It all rolled into one now. And so this time we got the Jungle Patrol, if I remember correctly, and versus the Sing Pirates. Yep.
So you have the 6 Phantom, the Jungle Patrol, and the Sing Pirates.
Very good. So you got a copy of these last time, didn't you, Jim? Did you, Dan?
No, I didn't. I mostly go for licensed products, and so unless it's probably super easy and all the rest of it. And these are nice. They appeal to me. I like figurines. I like being able to I've got the Boss Fight Studios and all those sorts of things. I like that. I like little statues and figurines, that sort of thing. So they did appeal to me, but probably I didn't quite get over the line with them being unlicensed.
Rightio. You getting a set of these ones, Jim?
Yeah, eventually, yes, I will be. They've also got a discount if you get them before December as well. You can get a bit of a discount off. I think it's like a 10% discount or something.
Always handy at this time of year.
Mm.
Thank you very much for listening and for watching us. Our website is, of course, chroniclechamber.com, and our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and give us some opinions, particularly about what we should do for our 300th episode on our social media platforms or over at the YouTube channel. Please remember that if you comment, you automatically go into our draw for our monthly competition of free Chronicle Chamber swag. Past winners are Ravi Shankar from India, Kenneth Carson from USA, Mark Dell from Australia, and Lars Anderson from Sweden. So we're very much an international podcast here, and we're not just catering just for Australians. We will send the merch out all across the globe. So you can subscribe to us via YouTube or through your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes or Spotify. Thank you, and please get in contact with us. And I'm Steve, and happy fandoming one and all.
Happy fandoming, everyone. Go Lions.
500
Fandoming, everyone.
years
Stay
ago,
safe.
He washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom. Enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds